Uh, Hello, everyone who is tuning in. We are your summer transition chairs. We're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves and tell you a little bit about ourselves and then answer any questions that you might have. So my name is Julia Di Fiore. I just finished my first year, and I'm doing a dual degree actually with the Masters of Public Affairs and then a law degree. So if you have any questions about dual degrees, you can ask me. I'm originally from Denton, Texas, so not too far from my home here in Austin.
Thunder.
Okay, keep going. And welcome to anyone who's joining. What else? So I'm involved in the Graduate Public Affairs Council. That's our student council, student government for the LBJ school. And so I can answer questions about that as well. And also, I changed careers to come to do this degree. So I was previously doing classical music, which I know is kind of unusual. So I can talk to you about if this is totally new to you as well, some sort of career change, if you have any questions about that. So I'll hand it over.
Hi, my name is Tomi Ogungbamigbe. I'm a second year Masters in Global Policy Studies. So if you have any questions about that program, feel free to ask me. I'm originally from New York City, live in Dallas, and then I moved down to Austin. So if you have any questions about that too. And I'm a treasurer of the Public Affairs Alliance for Communities of Colors. It's a student organization in LBJ. So if you have questions about student organizations, you can also ask me about that.
Hey guys, I'm Carly. I am also a first year, just finished our first year. I'm an empath major here. I'm originally from Fort Worth, Texas. I went to UT undergrad, got my bachelor's in government. I actually graduated last May, so I went straight into the LBJ school. So if you have any questions about going straight from undergrad into the LBJ school, feel free to reach out. I know it can be a little scary. So I've worked in a couple of internship positions, state government, international development, just kind of very broad. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions about UT, Austin, LBJ. We're excited to meet you guys.
Yeah, so we're planning some events for this summer. It sounds like y'all have actually already organized an event on your own, which is great. Really exciting to see. I might be able to attend. I think it's next week, so hopefully we can meet in person for anyone who's attending that. But we'll be doing things throughout the summer. I think we'll do just sort of a happy hour meet and greet. We're planning an event, hopefully with our Metro bus system, so that we can do sort of a tour of the city / getting to know the transit, and then maybe go do some fun things downtown. What else do we have?
We're planning a picnic too, and
Yes, and we are thinking about doing a meetup at the farmers market up in Mueller Lake Park, which is just a couple miles north of the LBJ school, so it's really close and accessible.
We also have some targeted groups that we're trying to welcome as well. So we are in contact with some of the current students who are veterans or military, and they're going to be planning an event probably closer to when school starts, and then also an event for international students by some of the current international students. So we'll have more details soon. We're still trying to finalize some of those details.
Yes. Yeah, we'll be posting on the Facebook group, and then we'll also be sending stuff out through Canvas for those of you that don't use Facebook. So.
And if you haven't joined the Facebook group yet, you feel free to do that. I think it's LBJ class of 2021.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think if you have any questions, we're happy to answer those now. We don't have a ton more to talk about beyond those. So.
While we are kind of waiting for questions to come in, why don't y'all each kind of talk a little bit about what a summer transition chair does, how they assist with orientation, things like that.
Yeah, basically we're just here to kind of answer any questions you guys have over summer, really about anything, classes, teachers, just transitioning, moving to Austin, where to live. And then we're also, like we talked about, are planning some events for you guys to be able to mingle and meet each other. And then also we're going to invite some older second year LBJ students to meet up with you guys as well. So,
and there'll be a couple of events during orientation as
Right.
well. So after you have a day of, learning lots of very important information about the school, and, advising and things like that, then we can maybe go relax as a group, and you can meet more of your classmates and just sort of get to know one another.
Okay, we have our first question in. How did you go about finding housing in Austin? Do you have any tips?
Yeah, so there's a Facebook group that's really good. So when I was looking for roommates, I tried that, and there's a Canvas page group for housing also. That's where I found my roommate, and then we kind of looked for apartments together.
I lived alone this year actually, and I had already been living in Austin, so it was a little bit easier for me because I knew what area of town that I wanted to live in. I ended up living in Hyde Park, which is a neighborhood just north of campus, so it was busable, a little too far to walk to school, but the bus was pretty quick, and driving it was 5 minutes. So it was a nice area for me. There's
Carly, a lot of people that work very I live up north, kind of near Mueller. There's a lot of students I know that live on the east side of 35 by like Manor. Really just all around the LBJ school. You can just look up places.
It sort of depends on what your priorities are, because I also know people who live pretty far out because they don't want to pay, $1,100 a month in rent. That would be living alone, or $800, $600, $700 a month in rent if you're living with a roommate. So they need to live even further out rather than, so they could save some money that way.
I live in Far West, and there's a shuttle that goes directly to campus, and it's the 661. So, but I drive, and it's like a 15-minute with no traffic, 20 if there's traffic. So it's not too bad.
And that's a little bit. 10 miles, 15 miles out?
5 miles, yeah.
5 miles, okay. Yeah. So not terribly far, but can feel far if, there are a lot of people living around campus. So, but it's not, I'd say it's a pretty easy town to get around in.
Oh, yeah. The bus system is great, so you can basically live anywhere and commute. I know I bought a parking pass, and I park on campus. So there's a lot of different options. On Facebook, like we said, there's a lot of Facebook groups you can join. There's a lot of options.
Kind of to piggyback off of that, how would y'all suggest students go about parking? Do you like parking on campus? Is it easy?
There's different options. So I park in a garage, which is definitely the most expensive option. There's a lot of other options, there's the C Pass.
There's a C Plus. I have the C Pass, and you can only park in C lots, and then other lots during the weekends. But I like it. It's a first come, first serve kind of basis. So as long as you get here before 8:45, you have a place to park.
I actually got an N plus permit, which is just nights and weekends, and so I would take the bus to school because I live close, and I got kind of tired of that after a while, and so I ended up finding some spots that were any UT permit at all times, and so I would park there. But there was it was 20 spots, and so if there wasn't a spot, I would then probably pay $3 to park on the street, which is pretty convenient and not too expensive if it only happens once in a blue moon. I got really lucky. I only had to do that 1 or 2 times this semester. But it can be hit or miss. So if you're, there's definitely parking if you're willing to pay more, but I was not. So
the garage, you for sure have a spot. I think there was one time where there was an event where I had to park in a different students. LBJ students park in Manor Garage. And I think it's called San Jacinto Garage is also a close garage. That's the benefit. I leave my car there overnight sometimes if I have to. So it's just, you have a spot. That's definitely the benefit of that. But there's a lot of different options depending on what you're looking for. What you're willing to pay. There's a lot of different options. So.
We've got another question. Do you plan on putting anything together for students with families?
Yes, the picnic and the farmers market were both planning to be family-friendly events, and we definitely have that in mind when
Yes.
you're planning all these events. They're not all going to be, at bars or anything like that. Because also we recognize that some people don't drink. So we're trying to be mindful of at least having one or two events that are inclusive for anyone who needs that.
Definitely, yeah.
And jumping back to housing, how far in advance do most people sign leases? I will be traveling from late June to the end of July, so I'm hoping it is possible to find and move into an apartment within early August.
Well, I signed my lease like in July, mid-July, so I'm not sure about early August because I moved to Austin August 8th. So
Yeah, you should be. I mean, there's definitely going to be options available. It might be a little more limited just because it's, a shorter time frame. But you could be looking for, especially on the Facebook groups, people are looking for like last minute roommates or people to sublease their apartments if they're like studying abroad for fall or whatever. So you should be fine. Like I said, Facebook I feel like would be really helpful if you're kind of in a bind.
Yeah, I feel like there are always options. It's just a matter of it maybe being a little more stressful if you're, running up against when school actually starts. But I think there's usually plenty of housing available. It's not like the city will run out of apartments, but you might not get exactly what you want.
or like the area you're looking to stay in.
Tomi, since you moved from out of state, can you talk a little bit about what that process looks like? And
So actually, my parents live in Dallas, and I just drove down. I didn't really have to move out of state.
Easy then. Do you have any advice for people who are coming from out of state? Do you just a general question for any of you?
From
really?
my roommate came from Indiana, so she kind of like drove down with a friend. So that was her experience. I don't know. I think a lot of people kind of drove in, and some flew in.
Yeah, if it's a choice of whether or not you should bring a car, I would say you should.
Yeah.
Austin has good bus systems, but it's not as public transit heavy as other cities. So I've moved out of state for other degrees at various times, and I usually would pack up my car and drive it, and usually try to get a friend to come with me, so that it's a little less lonely and someone to talk to. But yeah, that's been my experience. But if you're not wanting to bring a car and you're just going to fly down, I think there are probably like places that are furnished too.
Yeah,
for
there's
housing.
some furnished places too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And also like you can always go to like Goodwill and get like furniture and stuff. That's what I did.
Yeah, for sure. Does that help with that? Maybe.
Let me see. Why don't y'all talk a little bit about sort of the orientation process for you guys last year? I know this year our orientation is smaller, but if you'll talk a little bit about what your experience was, advice you'd give first years going into orientation and so on.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely a lot to take in, and that's kind of what we're here for. Like, I know we're going to have some student panels too. Just go to as many things as you can, even stuff that's not mandatory. I mean, you need to go to the sessions, that teach you how to register, which that's very useful information. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. Like it's going to be a lot of information, but just really enjoy it because our first year has like gone by so fast. And just to think that it's been a whole year since orientation, it can be scary, but it's a really great experience. And don't get overwhelmed.
Yeah, I felt pretty overwhelmed myself. Yeah. And I think that since it's going to be shorter this year, that's going to probably help with that a lot. But it was also a really good opportunity to get to know people. The main lecture hall where a lot of the orientation events take place, you're seated two by two. So, I would try to sit with a new person every time and chat with them before the session would start or after it would end. And that was a nice way to sort of get to know people a little bit more personally.
Yeah, I definitely like the student panels and like, getting their experience and what classes they enjoyed, what classes they didn't so much enjoy. So like going to those was very helpful.
Definitely.
Okay, another question. Can you speak to what programs you most often use computer-wise and what students need from their technology?
So,
well, I didn't buy any program except for like Yeah, I didn't buy anything. You can actually get the Microsoft Word, Excel, everything for free through the school using your school email address and your UTID. So that's what I did, and I didn't have to buy like Stata or anything like that because there's a remote login, and you just use your UTID,
Yeah.
password and stuff, and yeah.
And in terms of like statistical programs like that, I think it depends on the class that you take. I didn't need to use any of those programs my first semester. I don't know if y'all did, but second semester, the class I took, it was a choice of R or Python, and then other classes use Stata. So I think it sort of depends on what you do. And I didn't have to buy R or anything like that, but I did need to learn how to use it. So.
And you should know, like during orientation or when you're signing up for classes, it should be pretty apparent in the course descriptions, kind of like which courses use what programs, what softwares. So you'll know ahead of time if what programs you'll be using for each class.
To kind of piggyback off of that, are you guys involved in any sort of research capacity outside of what you're doing in classes?
In the summer, I'm going to be working for the Texas Public Policy Foundation, and I'll be working under the Vice President of Research. So I'm really excited to start doing some policy research, actually in a work capacity. But yeah, I'm not doing any research outside of class as of now.
I'm not either, but there are opportunities to do that. I just didn't feel comfortable with my current level of knowledge doing that yet. But I'm also, again, the career change person, so I figured I would learn more first and then dive into that
There's
later.
so many opportunities. I mean, to be research assistants or graduate GREs. There's a lot of different opportunities if that's something you're interested in.
To again piggyback off of that question, if you guys had advice on looking for internships, maybe thinking about kind of going into LBJ with sort of an idea of what you want to do post-graduation, any kind of advice along those lines?
Well, I utilized one of the services that OSA and the career services here provides, which is called Handshake. And I just looked at that pretty much to find my internship. And the first, handful that I applied to, I got one of them. So my process was relatively easy. And also career services here, Nikisha and Lauren are super helpful and always willing to meet one-on-one to give some guidance. So I also took advantage of that, and that was also really helpful. But knowing the area that you want to do first is, I would say, probably pretty important.
Well, like for me, we had like a career service day, so I met some organizations, and then I got applied to some of them. That's why I got my internship for the summer. So that was very helpful.
I got my internship through Handshake, I think, too. It's a very useful tool. I know throughout undergrad and then to get my job that I had this past year, I've used Hire Longhorn, which is a UT kind of hiring page that jobs post to hire specifically Longhorn students. And they range, they're not just policy internships, but they range just kind of all over the place, on campus, around campus. So that was a really helpful tool for me, especially in undergrad. And then also, that's where I got my job that I had. So that's also a good resource.
Maybe we should talk a little bit about working while in school.
Yes.
So I was, during orientation, many of the faculty and staff reiterated many times that we should really not work more than 15 hours a week. Otherwise, it would be unmanageable. And I did not listen to that because I thought I could handle it. I could not handle it. I started out working, I think, like 23 hours a week, and that was quickly not okay. And I reduced it down to like 18 hours, and that was still a lot for me. But I also didn't have much of a math background and hadn't been doing a lot of this stuff, so it was just a big adjustment for me in general. But I would say follow that advice, generally speaking. I don't know how y'all feel, but
Yeah,
If you
I worked 16 hours each week, and that was a lot. I felt. So I mean, it was definitely doable, and I mean, I needed to work to get money, so it's definitely doable. I mean, there's so many resources to help if you're struggling with classes or whatever the case may be. But I worked 16-hour weeks, and I made it. So
I was a TA this past semester, and it wasn't too bad. If I had issue, talk to the professors I TA'd for, and they were pretty understanding.
And I think a large part of it has to do with, who you're working for, whether they're understanding that you're in school, but also what classes you're taking. Because I was taking some really challenging classes in the fall. One with Pat Wong, who is wonderful, great class, but also a really heavy course load. So that was really hard to manage. And then this semester I was working actually more than I was in the fall, but I only took 3 classes, and that was a lot better, a lot more doable for me. So I think it depends on who you are too.
We have kind of a question that I guess relates to some of what y'all talked about. We've heard that each 3-credit class is roughly 10 hours outside of the classroom of prep work and study. Can you tell us any of the techniques you've used to stay on top of everything?
I would say that's about right. I mean, if not a little more work outside of class. There is a lot of group work, which is nice. So you have a really good support system in your classes. Everyone's pretty, helps each other out. Really, my calendar on my laptop is just every single thing I have to do every single day. So that's how I keep up with it.
I personally am kind of an organization freak in a way, and I do bullet journaling. And so what I like to do is at the beginning of the semester, when I get all my syllabi, I will write in all of my deadlines in my calendar, and then I work backwards and say, okay, how much time is this going to take? And I make a weekly study plan and what I'm going to accomplish every single day. So I get pretty nitty-gritty about it, but it kept me on topic. And even especially with things like research papers or big projects, I would make sure I had checkpoints all along the way to keep myself honest, because the professors aren't necessarily checking in on it. They're just like, here's this project that is due at the end of the semester, and then you better be working on it. So
for the quant EVI classes, because I don't come from a quant background, I made friends with the TAs and other people in the class. So we work together to get problem sets done and study together. So
which is totally
nice.
Okay. Yeah. They encourage that.
Yeah, they encourage you to work. They actually want you to put your group members' names on your papers or your problem sets. So there's a lot of group work, a lot of TA. I mean, there's a lot of resources to help you manage everything. But just staying on top of everything that's due and not forgetting, what's coming up at the end of the semester, having that kind of in the back of your mind at all times. But yeah.
Our next question, how affordable are textbooks? Are they easy to find? Is it easy to find used copies or copies in the library?
I spent very little on textbooks.
Because
so many of our classes are quantitative classes, so they didn't really necessarily even need a textbook. I think I had one for micro.
Yeah, I think I had one for PFM, but I rented mine on Amazon for $40. Yeah,
I think I bought 2 textbooks this year.
For my IEM class, the professor just gave us a textbook, a PDF. So.
Yeah, that happened in one of my classes too. We just had a PDF that was available through the professor. Yeah, so super affordable, and I'm sure that some rising second years would be happy to sell you.
True.
For cheap. So we can post in our class has a Facebook group too, so that's another resource for you. Once it gets closer to school starting, you can reach out if you need, want to buy textbooks or something like that.
Why don't y'all talk a little bit about the resources at the library that y'all have utilized? Have y'all gone to the library to study? Do you do most of your studying here at LBJ? Do you do it elsewhere?
Are we talking about the PCL?
Anywhere you go.
So LBJ, I do pretty much all of my studying at LBJ. I mean, there's so many places, and like we talked about, there's a lot of group work, so it's just easy to kind of meet with your group members at LBJ.
Also, I was confused about this before I actually set foot in the building. The LBJ Presidential Library is not a library in which you can study. It is a museum. to visit.
Yeah.
So the school itself has plenty of space and computers on the second floor, and it's sort of a lot. It's a place where most people would do their group work and everything like that. But we don't have like a library dedicated to the LBJ school.
Yeah, and also like Lila's is like down like a couple of buildings, and that's where I go sometimes to study if I'm tired of LBJ.
I have also heard of people going to the law library to study. There's cafes and stuff over there, but it does lock anyone out who's not a law student around exam time because apparently it's really intense. So.
Julia, since you are a dual degree with law, why don't you talk a little bit about your structure in the dual degree program, kind of what the expectations are? I know you haven't taken very many law classes,
yes.
But
yeah, so I think it's I want to say it's different for every dual degree, but in my case, I was supposed to start in one school, whichever I chose, and I had to be in that school exclusively, so I chose LBJ to start in, and then my second year will be in the second school, which is in this case is law exclusively, so I actually won't be here at all I'll be across the street, but I won't be taking any LBJ classes next year because I'll be doing my 1L, and then my final 2 years I will be getting credits for both. And because of the way this degree is structured, it's mostly law classes, and LBJ is pretty much done in a year. I think I have 2 more classes to take. So I can't speak to the law part yet. I have to go through orientation and do the whole thing over again in that school. But I've basically been a normal LBJ student in the MPAF degree this year. So nothing about that part of it has been any different for me.
okay. Do you guys have any kind of advice you'd give in terms of thinking about, I guess, moving to Austin, anything they need to do over the summer to prep? I know we'll have our online math course that we offer, but any kind of words of wisdom you have in terms of getting situated between now and the beginning of orientation?
Yeah, I guess basically just kind of planning your route to LBJ and kind of your plan. Like we said, there's buses basically from everywhere, so if that's what you're planning on doing, just kind of planning out your bus route. That way you're not just kind of like, the first day of orientation, get on the wrong bus or something.
Yeah, I usually try to do like a dry run of getting to school and everything before I actually have to be there, so I know where I'm going, if I'm parking, where I can park, and getting sort of a lay of the land. The building's open all summer, so if you're in town, you can come by. And
because I didn't visit Austin before, I actually came down for grad school. So if you can, I would suggest doing that, and walking around campus, knowing where things are is very helpful.
And I think we're doing during orientation a walkthrough, right, or a campus tour. I don't know.
In some way, shape, or form,
yes. So there'll be some kind of campus tour where you'll kind of get to see what's around LBJ. There's a lot of stuff around here.
And there's a lot to do in Austin in general. Yeah. So, if you're wanting to get out and about and get to know the city while you're here, my suggestion would be to look up some fun things that might be of interest to do so that you don't, just spend all your time studying at LBJ.
Yeah.
I've spent less and less time actually in the building as the year wore on because I, just felt like I needed to get out. But there's lots to do. It's a very vibrant city if you don't currently live here or you've never been.
Lots of hiking.
And so much nature and So I'm sure you'll enjoy it if you haven't been.
You will.
We've got a few more questions in. How many days per week do you typically find you're in the classroom?
Well, so you only do 4 classes during a semester, and all pretty much, I don't know, this might be different for MGPS, so I'm just speaking about the MPAF program right now, but we had all of our classes met once a week for 3 hours. So I knew some people who put all their classes on 2 days a week, which I did it on 3 usually, and I would have one day where I was here 9 to noon and then 2 to 5. Those were long days, so I wouldn't recommend trying to cram it all into 2 days, but that just wasn't my style. Maybe it would work for you.
GPS is also 4 classes in like 3 hours each and stuff. Like I had this semester I had class from like 9 to 12 and then like 6 to like 9. I wouldn't suggest that either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there is the possibility too of doing 9 to noon, 2 to 5, and then 6 to 9. And I did know a few people who did that, and they were particularly unhappy with their choices.
Very cranky.
So yeah, but sometimes that's how it goes too with registration.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think I did last semester. I had 1 class each day, and then I had my Thursdays off. So I had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. I had 1 class on each day, and then I just worked. So I only was in class for 3 hours a day, and then I worked all the other times of the week. So it's basically just kind of, if you're working or what works best for your schedule. There's a lot of different options. Just also kind of what you get during orientation or registration.
Yeah.
Yeah, a note about registration too is since so many people are trying to register at the same time, sometimes if you're on campus using the network, it can crash or not crash, but like the system will freeze. Thank you. So I always registered at home where I knew that no one else was using my Wi-Fi. And that I was usually successful.
Opposite of that, I did that fall semester and like it was a mess. I couldn't it just wouldn't go through for me. So spring,
at home?
Yeah, at home. So at spring I came here and it was actually faster.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
So never mind.
Depends.
Either way,
So
you
good
will get
luck.
registered.
Yes.
You'll get registered one way or the other. So.
We have some questions related to food. Do you usually bring lunch or dinner to campus, or are there quick places near LBJ to get food? And then also, on top of that, are there places to store food at LBJ?
Yes, there are fridges and little kitchen areas on both on the second floor and the third floor.
Yeah, there's
Are we
a
allowed to
fridge.
do that too?
Yeah.
I always bring my lunch because I like to save money, and there's a microwave if you want to heat something up. It can get a little gross in the kitchens. We're working on that.
Don't look too deep into the fridge.
Yeah. But there are also places sort of nearby. I wouldn't say there's anything super quick. There's
like
one
Snarf's
place
across the street. That's
Yes.
the quickest one, I think.
Yes.
And there's like the little cafe downstairs.
Yeah, we have
Yes.
O's Cafe downstairs, which I am a very loyal customer to.
They have excellent breakfast burritos.
Mhm.
Yes.
And they've got sandwiches and
Sandwiches,
light stuff.
salads, wraps, chips, kind bars, coffee,
Mhm.
fruit. Yeah, they have everything. So I definitely hit up O's a lot.
Especially in the morning.
Yeah, I think they close at like 3 though,
Yeah.
most days.
So not for dinner.
not
but
for dinner.
Breakfast or lunch.
Yeah, but there's definitely places to store food if you want to bring food.
Okay, our next question. Do you all feel like advisors and professors are accessible? Any advice for communicating with your professors?
I'd say on the whole, faculty in particular have been fairly responsive to me. Class sizes are not that huge, so your professors know who you are. And especially if you make an effort to go to them in their office or email them, they're usually very responsive.
Yeah, and most professors, if not all, have their offices are in the LBJ school.
Yeah.
So your classes are like right across the hall from your professor's office. So you can go over there. I mean, when you're studying at LBJ, you can just hop up to their office and ask them questions.
Or sometimes like your professors are just walking around and see you studying and just like stop by, help you sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, in terms of advising, Fiore Greenberg is the advisor for the MPAC program, and she is very busy, but she has always gotten me a response and made time if I've needed it to meet with her. So I always know exactly what I need to ask her and what because I know her time is very limited, but she's always made an effort to respond.
Ray Day is the GPS advisor, and he's really chill. Like I send him an email, and he responds fast. So.
Can you guys talk a little bit about what your advising appointments typically look like when you've gone in to meet with Sherry or Lawrence? Is it the kind of thing where you come in with the list of classes already planned out, so on and so forth?
Like for me, I actually started as an MPAT and then switched to GPS in the middle of fall semester, so that was fun. So I went to Ray Day. I was like, hey, I would like to, switch into GPS, and it's like, no problem. This is what you need to do. And they're like, got it together, and I sat with him about which classes would like transfer and like which classes I would need to take to fulfill like the requirements. So he was really helpful, like mapping everything out for me.
Yeah. Just come in, with whatever questions you may have. I mean, know what you are going to advising for, and just kind of, they'll answer whatever questions you have, and they'll help you if you're confused or just don't even know where to start. They'll help you.
Right. Yeah, I think by nature, advising is, you coming, for me, it's coming in with a tentative plan and making sure that everything is checking the boxes and I'm on the right track, right? I don't think it's necessarily a place where you go in and you say, what do I do? If you really are that, having those kinds of issues, I'm sure people are willing to help you with that, of course. But in my experience, it's been more helpful if I have sort of a tentative plan and just get feedback on what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Okay. Our next question. With the amount of group work you say is required and other related activities, what is the amount of time we can expect to spend physically at the school a week?
It's whatever you make of it, because I also tried to do a lot of studying at home.
That's
so
true.
I'd say in the spring semester this year, and again, I was only taking 3 classes. Let's see, I was here for 12 hours of class and then maybe another 5 to 10 for group work and studying, and the rest I did at home.
Yeah. So. It really is your preference. I mean, I always like to just come up to school and do my schoolwork and then be able to go home and not have to do anything at home. So I would always just be up here, even if it's like 9 p.m. Like I would always just like be in the lobby. But like we said, there is a lot of coffee shops. I mean, so many places to study that are definitely, if you want to get out of the LBJ environment, there's definitely so many other places that you can go.
Okay. Our next question is the area around LBJ cycler friendly. Are there a lot of people who cycle to LBJ?
Yeah, there are a fair number.
Yeah.
I know some people who that's their only mode of transportation and they get around the city okay.
Definitely.
I think Austin is continuing to improve their bike friendliness, but there are many streets that have bike lanes.
A lot of people definitely bike to LBJ.
I think there's a nonprofit called Bike Austin too, if you're, wanting to get more information about bike things in the city. I bet that would be a good resource for you.
Why don't you talk a little bit about sort of volunteer efforts, maybe your PRP, kind of things along those lines where you have had a chance to get involved in other capacities for giving back.
Yeah. Our PRP, ours was, it started off as social policy in Latin America, but it kind of branched out into just policy initiatives in Latin America.
Yeah, like best practices. So we focused on like health, migration, and drugs. And like we actually like groups like break and like focus on each issue and like kind of come back and we put things together.
Yeah, there's a lot of different. I know ours was more like international focused, but I know there were some PRPs. I don't know which PRP you were in.
Mine was more local. So
that's right. Yeah.
Mine was gender equity in local governments, and so we also broke things out, but we were able to choose our topic of interest within that umbrella. So some people worked on community resource centers, which was sort of targeted at mothers. I did pay equity my first semester. My second semester I worked on restricting gun access for domestic violence offenders, and so we sort of came up with a toolkit that would be all the things that a local legislator would need to implement whatever policy we had been working on. So there was a memo from that legislator to their colleagues. There was a draft ordinance or resolution. There was a mock press release, things like talking points, things like that. And then we actually had the opportunity to present at a convention for one of our clients, because we work with real clients. So we had Local Progress, the Mayor's Innovation Project, and then NIRH, National Institute of Reproductive Health. So those were our 3 clients. And so one of them had a conference in Austin during the spring semester, so we got to go and present. And actually it was attended by people who were local legislators and some Austin city councilors came, some city council members came and heard our presentations. And so I'm actually working with a couple of council members over the summer to get the gun restriction legislation possibly in Austin, which is super cool, and I'm very excited about that. So it definitely is some real life work, not just, academic, hypothetical, whatever. And you get to just see how things work in practice, which is a really neat opportunity.
Yeah, and also for like volunteering opportunities for PAC, I know we did the Barbara Jordan Elementary School where people went and read to the kids. So there's like opportunities to get involved in the community.
Mm-hmm. And GPAC, the Graduate Public Affairs Council that I'm on, as I'm the parliamentarian, and we do some community engagement. We have I think that's the title.
I think that
yeah, community engagement director. So we try to have some volunteer opportunities. I think we were part of ECHO, which is ending homelessness coalition something organization, and so we did. I participated in a point in time count earlier, where we go and we try to, count up all of the people who are experiencing homelessness on a given day, so that we can give that data to the city and get funding, things like that. So, so there are opportunities to get involved if you as much as you.
Carly and Tomi, why don't y'all talk a little bit about your PRP? Did you guys get to travel? Anything along those lines? Anything?
Sadly, we did not get to
We
travel,
didn't.
though we asked politely.
Yeah, we didn't get to. There were a few that did get to travel. Our basic deliverable was a report. So as Julia mentioned, you typically have a client that you're working on this research project for. Our client was LBJ, like the LBJ school.
Mm-hmm.
So we were just tasked with kind of creating this report. And we chose those 3 policy areas: drugs, migration, and health in Latin America. And so we kind of just had a lot of freedom in doing that. And we focused on the best practices that we found in the region.
So for health, like we were talking about obesity and mental health, and for migration, we were talking about return migration.
Mm-hmm.
And for drugs, we're talking about like looking at Uruguay and other countries that's implemented like really good drug policies. So we're just looking at best practices in Latin American countries and how that can be used for the whole region.
Yeah, so we were able to basically our main focus was that big report that we have been working on for the whole year. So that was the focus of our PRP. But there are other PRPs where you do like a presentation, or you attend a conference, or depending on who your client is. Mm-hmm. But I liked that about our PRP. I liked writing. I really like writing, and I wanted research skills and being able to put that into a report, into writing form. So that was really a great experience.
And I think most of the PRPs have some sort of written deliverable at the end, which is nice because and ours, we peer reviewed our writing, so that was also good for editing and things like that.
Another question for you guys: does everyone do their internship over the summer, or do some people spread it out over a semester or a year?
If you're at the legislature, which none of you will be your first year because it just finished, so it would be during your second year. So people who do the legislature do it concurrently with the spring semester, but otherwise you're supposed to complete your core courses first. So that means that you're not doing your internship until the summer. So a lot of our colleagues have gone off to DC to do internships. Some have stayed local. Others have gone to various cities in the U.S.
New York City and stuff.
Mm-hmm. So I think most people are doing theirs in the summer, except for those who worked for the Texas State Legislature this spring.
I know some people can do it during the fall. I'm not sure if a lot who are, but like some people are like thinking of doing it in the fall because they're
during their second year.
Yeah, during the second year because like some are working over the summer or taking classes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to have 400 hours for your internship. So typically if you do it over the summer, it'd be 10 weeks of 40-hour weeks. So that's just, I mean, that's what I'm doing. But there are people that do, they'll work part-time during their semester, and then just kind of spread it out over a longer period of time. But yeah, I think there's options for sure.
But I think like most people do it in the summer between first and second year.
Our next question, are PRPs quant or qualitative heavy or a mix of both?
I think it depends on which PRP you get, because ours, we did not do any quant stuff.
Yeah.
That was just research
Neither
heavy
did
and
I
writing.
think it's mainly qualitative.
Yeah. I want to say
Yeah, I
that
think so,
that
yeah.
leans on the qualitative side, which is nice if you're wanting a break from all the quantitative stuff.
Yeah, you'll have plenty of quantitative stuff, which I love. I love quant. I'm one of the very few people.
I love it. I just good at it.
It's like a learning curve there.
Yeah.
Would you say that qualitative research complements the quantitative work you do in your classes, your core classes? Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Our next question, where do you all work out?
Orange Theory. Whoop, whoop. But also Greg on campus is awesome, and you'll be
That's
able
the Gregory Gymnasium.
Gregory Gymnasium, sorry. It
That's
goes by
okay.
Greg.
That's his
That's
personal
his name.
preference.
But yeah, Greg Gym is, I mean, you can walk there from here. It's probably like a 15-minute walk just into campus, and it's a really great gym, and you'll have full access to that as a student.
Yeah, I was doing that a lot more toward the beginning of the year, but they have like class passes where you can do workout classes or things like that, and so that's in addition to just regular, like, with your tuition you get access to the gym. So if you're just looking to lift weights or do like treadmill, things like that, that's no extra charge. But if you want to do the classes, it's it's not too expensive, but you do have to pay for those. So I did that for a while. I liked the yoga classes, and they've got fitness classes and things like that. There's also a smaller gym that's closer to the LBJ school that I've actually never checked out. But
Yeah,
I know
the
some
rec.
people who go there.
The rec is the rec center, I guess is what it's called. Yeah, that one's a little closer to LBJ, and that one's just a little smaller. I know that one has a lot of like gyms for if you want to play like basketball, or you can also do that at Greg. But yeah, Greg is super nice. There's a really nice pool. There's an indoor pool that you can use if you want to swim laps. There's a lap pool outside too. You're into swimming. But yeah, Greg is great. I think the pass is like $95 for a semester.
Yeah, it's pretty affordable.
But there's classes, there's classes like all day, every day. And there's Zumba, yoga, kickboxing, basically any class you can think of. I did that all throughout undergrad, and it's a really great value, and I really liked that. So, but you could just do the free. I mean, Greg's great free also. So.
Did you all have an opportunity to attend any UT sporting events this year? Did you utilize?
Yes.
Too busy studying.
I am also one of the few people. I mean, I did go to UT undergrad and into UT sports. Hook 'em, yes. But yeah, we have actually tailgates here at the LBJ school for every home football game, which is a big.
Oh yeah, I did go to all the tailgates. I just didn't go to all the games.
That'll be a really great time to get to know your fellow students, because it's during the fall semester. Everyone's
outdoor.
It's outdoors. The weather's pretty hot, but it gets better as the year goes on. But yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, I love UT sports. I go to every football game, basketball. There's a lot of stuff to do. Yeah, it's really fun. Take advantage of it. Highly recommend.
Carly, you may know the answer to this. When are students able to buy the sports tickets for students?
The big ticket?
Mm-hmm.
So the big ticket is, I think it's like $175, but you get free or access to all sporting events. So every football game, any sport, any UT sport, you get access with your UT ID. And that's what I've always done. It's just such a good value. I think you can get student tickets. Did y'all get the big ticket? Or
No.
did you have to buy an individual ticket?
So I went because a friend had bought me a ticket because they
Okay.
really wanted to go.
Yeah, because tickets can get expensive, like if you don't buy the actual big ticket. And I think the deadline or the priority deadline is like in July, or that's when it usually is. But you can look it up. It's just called the big ticket. You get access to all UT sports all year long, so it's a really great value, and that's just what I always do.
It looks like one of our, Austin, who's in our new incoming class, purchased his big ticket today for $195.
Oh,
Okay.
what up?
So if y'all want to get in on that, y'all can,
Thank you so much for the information.
Yes. Thank you.
I will store that away.
Are there any other sort of student group opportunities to get together and meet people and any kind of big events that y'all would say are highlights for LBJ students to attend?
So yes, there are. I'll talk about the events first. GPAC puts on a fall-winter formal and then a spring prom every year, so that's a lot of fun. You should definitely go.
Yeah.
And they're not held at school; they're held at other locations, so a little fancier. And then we have lots of different organizations. Tomi's in PAC,
Yeah.
which you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, so we have like events throughout the year for like people. I know we have like during orientation with like a man at table to get more information about what we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll learn more about the student orgs
Look out
during
for us.
orientation, I'm sure. There's
Yeah.
PAC and there's
Pride Policy Alliance.
Pride Policy Alliance, the Social Policy Network.
Yes.
There's Feminist Policy Alliance. There's the Baines Report. If you like writing, that's our school's like student journal. And so feel free to ask me about that. I think the editor is Timothy McCallick and I want to say Claire Burris is maybe second in line, or they're co-editing. I'm not sure, but you can reach out to them if you're interested in writing. They would even talk to you now if you're interested. So yeah, I think that.
Yeah,
I'm
there's a
not
lot of
forgetting one.
events all throughout the year. The main one, like the big, there's formal and prom, and then we have so many speakers, like all of
yes.
the
There's
organizations.
no shortage of
It's like
events
every Thursday,
going on.
like a speaker during lunch.
Yeah.
So also free food.
Yeah, there's
lots
a lot
of
of free
free
food at these events, and I'd say there's at least 2 or 3 events every week.
Yeah.
If you're wanting a lunchtime talk or some sort of evening thing. Hillary Clinton was here this year.
Nice.
A lot of other people. Rahm Emanuel from who's the mayor of Chicago. The former mayor of New Orleans.
Yeah.
The former mayor of San Francisco.
Yeah, there's so
I can't
many.
remember everybody.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I should know all the names, but I don't. But there's a lot going on, so yeah.
I'm going to put the last call out for questions. So if you have any questions, go ahead and get those in. While we're kind of waiting for those to trickle in, any last words of advice? Anything you'd like to?
I mean,
You got it.
yeah, you got this.
You got this.
Time management is really important.
Very important.
Yeah.
Like the first fall semester was a little hectic for me, but like it gets better.
It does get better.
Like
And it
once
goes
you like
by
adjust to the
fast.
workload and like you'll be fine.
Yeah, the first semester definitely was kind of like, what did I get myself into? But once everyone's so, there for each other. And I feel like it's a really great environment to be in and to be stressed in because everyone's feeling your pain and everyone's there for you. And just I'm kind of feeling nostalgic because we're halfway done.
Speak for yourself. I've got 3 more years.
But no, it's great. You'll do great. You'll like it.
Okay, looks like we've got a few more questions in.
All right.
Do you all have any recommendations for sources to listen to, political podcasts or daily news briefs that we could explore to prepare us for grad school here?
I love the NPR Up First.
Yes.
Quick and easy.
Yeah.
I used to listen to the Daily a lot. That's from the New York Times.
Yeah,
Or
and you can
other-
get like student subscriptions to, the Wall Street Journal or whatever you want, The Economist or whatever.
The Economist. One of my professors really recommended watching PBS NewsHour. I'd say any of the major sources are just going to be your best bet, having sort of a general knowledge of things that are happening in the world.
And diversify too. Don't just, that's what they all, our professors also encourage that, to diversify.
Like I read foreign affairs and like The Atlantic. So, like foreign affairs is like good for stuff.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Our next question, can you speak on your individual development plans? Have they changed since you first created them?
Yeah.
Well, my goal was to be an opera singer, so it's changed a lot. Yeah, I'm not a good one to answer this question, actually, because I used to have a really strict plan about what I wanted to do with my life, and I realized that what I had chosen as what I wanted to do was not really aligned with my strengths or my values, really how I wanted to spend my life. And so now I'm sort of venturing off into a completely new territory. And so instead of coming up with a really strict plan, my plan is go to school and explore and figure out what I want to do. And there are so many opportunities and so many areas that you can really dive into that I wanted to go in with a generalist view and hone in as time goes on. So that's sort of my philosophy nowadays, but others might be different.
So like for undergrad I did international relations, and I eventually went to the Peace Corps, and like I was like, oh, I want to do international development. So that's my concentration in GPS. But I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do in development. But I was like, oh, like, youth in development or maybe economic development. But like I took a couple of classes and I'm like thinking, oh, climate change and like food security. So that's where I'm kind of going into.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I kind of came to LBJ because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I studied government at UT undergrad, and so I knew I was interested in that, and I really liked the public affairs program here at LBJ because it is you can kind of, choose what classes you want to take. I mean, there's the core classes, but there's so many different varieties of policy that you can focus on, and that's what my plan kind of is like Julia's. I came in with just wanting to get a taste of everything, and so I'm just kind of trying to take one class of each thing. And so it's a great place to come if you are really passionate about one, education policy or whatever.
There are a lot of people like that.
Exactly. But don't feel bad if you don't know exactly what you want to do, because I came in not knowing what I want to do. Still don't know what I want to do. So,
also there are like research centers here too at LBJ, and like get in touch with them, kind of see what they're doing. They're very helpful.
And what will be our final question today is, I think, a very fitting one. What is the biggest thing you wish you had known before you started at LBJ?
A lot of math.
Yes, I wasn't expecting all the quant.
I wasn't either, and it's on me. Like, I should have read what the curriculum was more. So go actually read through what the curriculum entails. If you haven't already, maybe others.
I would say like GPS is not as quant heavy as empath. Like when I realized that, I was like, oh my gosh, I could have done this from the beginning.
Yeah, I guess I would say, I came in like really just kind of nervous, like thought of grad school. I don't know, I straight from undergrad. But everyone is just so nice and just helpful. So I knew I was nervous about coming in and everyone, having these great careers and being so impressive, and everyone is so impressive here. But everyone's so great and so welcoming. So.
And you're impressive too. So it's like everybody has something to offer. Right, it's not just like it can seem scary, and of course at first everyone's kind of trying to like, maybe build themselves up a little bit, like, oh, this is all the things that I've done. But we're all here for the same reason, to get this degree, and so we all have things to learn.
We all want to do good public service, and so it's a good environment.
Yes.
Well, I think that's all the time we have. Any last thoughts? Anything else you want to say?
Good luck.
Yeah.
Can't wait to meet you guys.
Yes.
Come to our events.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Did this to be a press.